ready? Good morning. Welcome back to another Read Aloud of Moo. We left off on a chapter saying to the fair. We've got our cup of coffee. Diego, cleaning his paws. We've got Otter and a nice puppy. Let's see. To the fair. At 5 a.m. on the day of the fair, Dad and Mom drove us to Mrs. Falala's. We were haltering Zora and Yolanda when Zepp and Mr. Birch from Birchmire Farm arrived with a cattle van. Inside were 6 other cow halters to the rail, blinking lazily. 6 other cows haltered to the rail, blinking lazily. Zepp led Yolanda up to the ramp and into the van and returned for Zora, who balked. "Talk to her," Zepp said to me. "Tell her it's okay." Leaning in close, I stroked her head and whispered, "Zora girl, we're going to the fair. All of us. I'll be there with you." I took the halter from Zepp and tugged at it, and eventually, after a little more snorting and stomping and swirling her head, Zora followed me up to the ramp and settled in beside Yolanda. My parents looked at me as if I'd just done a triple flip in the air. Zepp and Mr. Birch looked up the ramp and we returned to our car. Zepp and Mr. Birch locked up the ramp and we returned to our own car, ready to follow them up to the fair, about an hour away. "Wait," I said. "Where's Mrs. Falala? I realized we hadn't seen her yet that morning. Isn't she coming?" We turned toward the house. No lights on, all dark, all quiet. "She's probably still sleeping," Dad said. "Like most people at this hour. Let her sleep." As our car turned to follow the van pulling out of the drive, I noticed that the attic window was open, but I heard no music, no flute. On the way to the fair, Luke said, "Did anyone actually ask Mrs. Falala if she wanted to go to the fair?" "I hadn't even thought about it. I just assumed she was going," I said. "Wouldn't she want to see Zora in the ring?" Luke asked. "I guess not." Hey. Stop. Fairgrounds. Rows of cattle vans. People swarming, old and young, cotton candy, fried dough, fudge, hot dogs, tacos, donuts, beef cattle and dairy cows, sheeps and chickens, pigs and rabbits, moos and baas, oinks and nays, flowers and crafts, show rings and bleachers, games and rides, Ferris wheel, bumper cars. Such a world of its own, this fair, sweet, fair swarm haven. Morning primping. Rows of cows being groomed, sudsing, fluffing, drying, combing, spraying, polishing. A loudspeaker crackled. 30 minutes, group 1. Along the rows, the older teens quickened their pace. Zepp and Beat tucked in their shirts, wiped off their boots, slipped cow combs in their back pockets, grabbed their show sticks, did a final once-over of their heifers, Yolanda and Yo-Yo, and off they marched into the ring. Instead of sitting in the bleachers, we stood by the arena rail with Mr. Birch, who explained what was happening. This part was for showmanship. The judges were studying both animals and their handlers, but final judging in this round centered on the handlers. How well were they showing their animals? The teens led their animals clockwise around the ring and then reversed. The judge lined them up, parallel to each other, and walked back and forth, pausing to study the setup of this or that animal, and pausing to question the handlers. We overheard some of the questions. How much does she weigh? When was she born? I panicked. What if I were asked these questions about Zora? I didn't know the answers. Sensing my agitation, Mr. Birch reminded me that Zora was a fall heifer and now weighed about 800 pounds. The judge moved over to Beat, who stood tall and confident by her heifer, Yo-Yo, and then along the line and finally to Zepp and Yolanda. I had been watching Zepp closely, the way he used his show stick to calm Yolanda, the way he adjusted Yolanda's stance, moving one foot slightly back, the other slightly forward, all while keeping his attention on the judge. He was so at ease and so gentle with Yolanda. He was so at ease with the judge, who, after asking Zepp several questions, nodded appreciatively before moving on. tucking in. The judge walked up and down the line one more time, studying until at last he called out the first and second place showmanship winners. We didn't know them. Third place showmanship went to, oh yes, it did. It went to that red-headed boy with the long legs. Zep. He nodded at the judge, and he nodded at me. Showtime. Oh, that Zora. She let me halter her and lead her to the ring, so perfectly obedient and calm. She stood there with me as we waited in line with the 11 other novices and their heifers or steers. She let me stroke her neck with the show stick. She let me comb the hair along her back. When our group was announced, the entrance in front of us moved forward. Okay, I can do this. Just walk, I told myself. Stand straight, smile. I was excited. I loved everything about it. The ring, the sawdust, the cows, the handlers, the men and women and kids on the bleachers and along the fence. I was looking for Zep. I wanted him to see how well I was doing. I wanted him to see how I held the show stick and how straight my back was and how calm I was and how loosely I could hold the halter. We were near the entry gate. Zora looked into the ring and snorted, and then she bolted. Oh no. Catch that heifer. Zora had yanked the halter from my careless, loose grip and took off, kicking and bucking. Moo, moo. I chased her as she ran past the stalls, knocking over buckets and brooms and rakes. Moo, moo. People dodged out of her way, calling, cow on the loose, cow on the loose. Beat and Zep and Mr. Birch joined the chase. Cow on the loose, cow on the loose. Moo, moo. Who knew a cow could run so fast? I turned back once to look at the ring, and the novices and the judges and my parents and Luke all stood there, staring at the cow on the loose, and the chaos erupting around and behind that wild-eyed heifer, Zora. Uh-oh. Looks like Zora went crazy, buddy. I don't know if that's good on points. Let's see. Showmanship. Zora raced down the chicken aisle and careened past the rabbit cages, nearly landing amid a pen of squealing piglets. People leapt out of the way. Zep and I finally caught her and led her back to the stalls, where she snatched her clump of hay and chewed defiantly and slurped water from the hose as if nothing whatever was wrong. The novice showmanship competition was over. We had missed it. Breed. Next up was the breed round. What do you think, Zep? Oh, what do you think? Zep asked me. Willing to try Zora again for the breed event? My parents and Luke joined us. Luke moved up close to Zora and placed a small hand on her wide neck. Zora, you be good. You know how. Mom and Dad looked surprised. We had no idea you could do all this, Rena. I had a quick glimpse of me in my room in our old apartment back in the city, an inside girl. And now, here I was, an outside girl, a cowgirl. When the belted Galloway breed was called, I led Zora back to the ring, and we entered, like civilized partners, and circled the ring, without too much contrariness, and she let me calm her with the show stick, and she did not drop any plops of anything, and she did not kick anyone or anything. As the judge moved along the row asking questions, I kept stroking Zora with the show stick, praying that she would stay calm, praying that she would not bolt. When the judge reached us, he said, "Ah, you're new at this." "Yes." "Are you nervous?" "Yes." "Well, you don't show it. That's good. And you did a fine job regaining control of your animal earlier. I saw that. What's her name?" "Zora." "Ah, and when was Zora born?" "Fall last year." "And how much does she weigh?" 800 pounds. "And who were her parents?" "Her parents?" "Yes. What's her lineage?" "Her lineage? I'm sorry, but I don't know." "Well, you surprised me. This looks like a fine young heifer, and I would think you'd want to know what her lineage is." "My guess is that there's a champion in there somewhere." Oh, yes, wait. I think that's right. I think she comes from a long line of champions." "You think?" "I'm new at this. I'm sorry." "Don't worry. Next time you'll know, won't you?" "Yes, sir." Zora placed 4th out of 9 and received praise from the judge for her fine proportions and good lines. "And you," he said to me, "have good posture and a nice smile and a good relationship with Zora." "But she bolted earlier." The judge patted Zora's back. "Oh, just a little stubbornness. The important thing is you didn't lose your cool, and you tried again. As we left the ring, I stroked Zora's head and whispered to her, "Do you hear that? We have a good relationship." I was eager to see Zep and my family, and as I searched the crowd for them, I spotted a woman with a long, white braid, but it was not Mrs. Falala. I felt sorry that she was not there, but when I told myself, maybe she would have been disappointed in Zora, or disappointed in me. But there were others who were not disappointed. My parents' smiles were so wide, and my mom kept saying, "How do you do that? How did you learn all that?" Luke ran up to me and hugged my waist and would not let go. "It was so good, Rena. Wasn't it good? Was it fun? Did you like it?" Zep followed me. As I returned to the stall with Zora, he leaned in close to her and stroked her head and looked in her eyes and said, "You were right good, Zora. Right good." He turned to me and leaned in close and said, "You too, Rena. You were right good." And we're going to stop the story there. Man, we are almost done already. Looks like we've got maybe 2 days left of this read, but I am really enjoying it. I like Rena and Luke's attitude for the big move they made to Maine, how much they're thriving and enjoying new experiences, how they stayed respectful to somebody who they didn't think they wanted to be around but now have created a relationship with, and the animals, tending to the animals, having relationships with the animals, seeing them as more than just animals standing there. This is awesome. This is a really good story. I hope you're enjoying it too. We'll see you next time.